All right. Well, then let's dive right into it. I will, I think since given the experience level that's here so far, I'm just going to start with a brief, very, very brief introduction into NLP, why I got into it, and what got me initially kind of fascinated with it in the first place. Before I even came to it, my dad actually started studying and learning about NLP and coaching as he went on to become an executive coach. So he had a sales background. And then when I was about 15 or 16, he stumbled upon NLP. In his personal development journey, he was looking to improve himself, and then he found neurolinguistic programming. So there I am, 16 years old, and I'm watching The Simpsons, and I'm a total Simpsons fan. So, I'm sitting there on the couch, just completely lost into the TV episode. And instead of watching The Simpsons, he has his NLP book out. And one of the things we're going to cover shortly is a presupposition called the map is not the territory. And I can remember him holding his NLP book up like this and walking up and down the stairs going, the map is not the territory. The map is not the territory. The map is not the territory. Trying to kind of understand this idea. And then later on, I ended up going through kind of my quote unquote rock bottom moment. Getting to that point in time where my thinking, my behaviors, my beliefs, my emotions had gotten me to a place where I had flunked out of college. I was going through severe depression, very, very bad social anxiety, to the point where I would have panic attacks just even communicating or talking with people. So then I had to find ways to be able to influence myself, and then trying different forms of therapy to try and get some type of influence so I could actually do something that would make me feel different. I was looking for any technique that could make me feel differently. And one of the things is that, to my credit, I've always believed in the human mind and the capacity of consciousness to create how you think and feel, and therefore your results. And so I started turning to my dad's books. I started reading NLP, and then I got my first certification in 2010. And then I went on to get certified in hypnosis and DHE and timeline therapy and all of these other modalities of changing and healing. And I've had a couple of experiences where I don't want to give you a magic bullet where I can tell you that you learn this technique, it's going to get rid of your problems forever, because that's not true. But the moment of change is usually instantaneous. The mind, we have to set the conditions in order for you to go to that next level, in order for you to change whatever stuck state you're feeling, in order for you to come into whatever abundant state. So if that's financial abundance, if you want to increase revenue, whatever that can be for you, we have to set the conditions. But then once the conditions are there, the brain can learn very quickly. So for example, when you're a child and you touch a hot stove, you recoil, and the brain builds a belief that says hot stoves are bad. And you don't have to repeat that lesson over and over again. The problem is that our brain is so good at learning that we can build beliefs about just about anything, whether or not they serve us. So let me go ahead and share my screen here so you guys can see there we go. So this is our slideshow. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
And what are you seeing? Are you seeing the head here? This little?
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, good. So this is a way that we can, and by the way, I want to present here that nothing that I'm saying is truth. We're going to give a brief introduction of NLP, what it is, and I'm going to sum it up in two concepts that you need to learn about to be able to influence yourself. And when you can do this with yourself, then you can begin to influence other people. This model, I'm not going to claim it to be true. So far, it's the closest model to truth that I found, but it's not about what's true. It's about what allows you to get results. So the model that we're working with here is we have your mind, And you have external stimulus. So you have things coming in through your eyes, through your ears, through tactile sensation, the millions of data input happening at every level. So for example, if you're watching me and you're paying attention to what I'm saying, you might not have been aware of the color of something that's in the background until I bring it into your attention. Or you might not have been aware of the color of my eyes. Or you might not have been aware of the tone or the timbre of my voice. Or you might not be aware of the feeling in your right foot or the feeling of the clothes on your shoulders. Until I talk about them and bring them into your awareness, your mind has to filter all of your sensory data into a gestalt of experience for you. It has to decide what information from the outside world as well as the inside, including your breathing, your pulse rate, the different pressure sensations inside your body. It has to decide how much of this information to present to you in consciousness. And the way that we do that is with these generalizations here. So you have beliefs and you have values and you have these decisions and memories and language and time, space, and energy. All of these create an internal representation. And what you and I are going to work with here is primarily your internal representations in the forms of beliefs and in the forms of state. So if you look all the way at the left here, you'll see this top thing here, internal representation, and how that interacts with, how that works with state and how that works with physiology. And for now, for today's purposes, let's just say that internal representation has to do with beliefs and it has to do with values, okay? So let's go further down here. And let's talk about, this is Robert Dilts's hierarchy of change. They're called the logical levels of change. So I know that we want to create a change in our lives, but the mind organizes change based on these levels. So whenever we're going to create a change, and I know that you're here with a certain outcome in mind, and I want you to begin to think in terms of these various levels. So you can start to ask yourself, where and when and am I going to be different? In what context? With whom am I going to be different? And that's the environment. What will you be doing differently? What specifically do you want to be doing differently in that environment? Now, capabilities refers to your skills in terms of the skills that you're going to be exuding or exhibiting in that environment. And it also can manifest in internal skills. So one of the things we're getting to get into is state control, how to control and monitor your own state of consciousness. So if you have a problem being in the right mood for prospecting, if you tend to avoid a certain prospecting activity, right? What are the skills of putting yourself in the zone so that you can just go out there and crush it? If there's a certain behavior or if there's a certain stuck emotion that's stopping you, one skill that you're going to learn in this practice group is how to change how you feel in those situations so that you can change your behavior and change your environment. We also have values and beliefs. Beliefs are commands to your nervous system. So we've been hearing this from the beginning of time. I don't know what your religious backgrounds are, but every single religious teaching emphasizes the importance of belief. Christ said, what you ask for in prayer and believe that you will receive, you shall receive. Buddha said that which what you think, you become. And this is sage wisdom, and it's been demonstrated over and over and over again. The nice thing about NLP is that it gives you a way to actually interact with your belief system, to find out what are your beliefs, and then to change them. And this is really the key to having mental freedom, to driving your own bus and being in control of your mind versus having your mind control you. And then values. Values are your motivating decisions. People say that they're not motivated or they're procrastinating or they're lazy. But the truth is that every single decision that you make, every belief that you form, every emotion that you feel, every behavior that you do, it's all there to serve a value. So once we understand what value you're trying to serve by keeping your limitations, then we can get that value, that positive intention on the side of the success you're trying to create. And almost at the highest part of the pyramid is, who am I? The beliefs about you. So the beliefs that you have about yourself. If it's a sales context, if you believe that you're persuasive, if you believe, if you believe that you're, well, pick a belief about yourself. And you're going to either have beliefs about who you are that are helping you and serving you, or you're going to have beliefs about yourself that are not serving you. So far to date, interventions at the level of identity, and we'll get into this, have been the most powerful, transformative experiences I've had in NLP. And then lastly, it's vision. It's, what do you want to create while you're here? For what larger purpose are you serving? And the way these levels work is they influence each other down the logical levels. So your vision will influence your identity, will influence your values and beliefs, will influence your capabilities, your behaviors, and then your environment. So change at the level of identity will permeate out to every other level. Change at belief will permeate down, and so far and so forth. So with that being said, let's talk about state control. And so real quick, if you guys were to stop and think about it, if you could take out a piece of paper, you don't have to do it, but just, this could be a good exercise for you. If you were to write down on a sheet of paper, on the left-hand side, the number of negative states that you experience on a weekly basis, and the number of positive emotional states that you experience on a weekly basis, how many negative states would there be? And then how many positive states would they be? So does anybody want to go for it? And
that's sort of a tricky question, I guess, but
yeah,
I'm not certain, to be honest with you, but I would think, more or less for myself, I think there'd be as many positive things as negative things.
Great.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Exact number, I'm not certain. I couldn't tell you.
Okay. I've gone through and I've done these interviews before, and I've done about 200 or 300 surveys to try and find out what type of states do people experience. And usually there's 3 to 5 on the negative side, and there's usually 3 to 5 on the positive side. And most people, I'll just tell you, if you're about equal, Ruben, you're ahead of the curve, man, because most people usually are outweighed by the number of negative states they experience. So anxiety, worry, stress, overwhelm, and then on the other side, they have, well, occasionally I relax with TV, or, but another way that I could ask this is, what is your favorite flavor of suffering? What is your most regular go-to negative state? Is it self-doubt? Is it stress? Is it anger? Is it irritation? What's the place that you find yourself in most often that you wish that you weren't there? You don't have to tell me what it is, but just keep that in mind, because that's one place where you really want to begin to use the techniques that we're going to talk about here to change that around. Emotional states are habits. That's all they are. And you can change those habits. You can train your mind and body to inhabit states of bliss, states of joy, high performance states of flow, of confidence, of motivation, determination, ecstasy. The nice thing about your neurology is that if there's a word for it in the human language, so bliss, joy, whatever, you can actually learn to experience it. And you can learn even better to habituate it. So that's the beginning of what we're getting into today. So let's see here. What do I have planned for you guys? Just a brief overview of what you want to be able to do with NLP in terms of your state. When you're skilled at NLP state control. Hello, Janet.
Hello.
Howdy. When did you get in here?
Can you hear me?
I sure can, yes.
Oh, okay. I just popped in.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. So we're just talking about state control here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So when you have a really powerful grasp of state control, you will be able to go in and out of any state at will. Any state. So name it, being loving, being joyful, happy, certain, whatever it is, you'll be able to go into the state and you'll be able to amplify it. So the first thing is to elicit a state. The next step is to be able to amplify that state, to turn it up and really intensify it in terms of the sensations. And one of the things about beliefs is most of us have beliefs about how good we can feel. And if you can believe that you can feel better, then you can. You can actually take the best sensations you've ever had. And this is the nice thing about this practice group, as opposed to reading about it, we're actually going to practice these things. So the more that you practice feeling good, the more you will practice, or the more you will begin to feel good. And the more dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin begin to flood your neurology. And this is important, not just so that you feel good, but good feelings are actually correlated with high performance. When your mind is flooded with dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, you're better at recognizing patterns. You're better at thinking more effectively, and you make better decisions. So you want to be able to elicit states, amplify them, and then you want to be able to do something called anchoring. And anchoring is doing a stimulus response conditioning so that you have some type of way to access that state when you need it most. So if you're single and you want to be able to feel attractive and outgoing and playful when you're going out to meet somebody, you want to be able to put yourself in that mode the moment you see that girl or man. And that what happens is when you learn to do this well, the very external stimulus will trigger that from within you automatically. Now, if it's a sales context and you self-belief is very, very important for sales. Being playful is very, very important for sales. Empathy is really important. So understanding what states you want to go into and when, and then learning to automate it is the skill set that we want to begin to develop here. Okay? Are there any questions so far?
Maybe it's a general question, but how long will it take someone typically to get to that point where you can elicit the states on command?
Okay, so I'll answer that in two ways. Let's say that you have specific context in which you want to be able to elicit specific states. I would say that can take anywhere from, if it's one context, it can take an hour to train yourself to do it, anywhere from an hour to about a week to be able to train yourself to do it. Now, if you want to be able to do it, if you want to be able to go into any state, if you want to be able to go into absolutely any state on command, I would say about a month of regular practice, at least 20 minutes to an hour a day of going in and out of different states. And so it really depends on what purpose, what you're going to be using the tech for. In a coaching dynamic, I need to be able to access not only positive states, I need to be able to access negative states as well to be able to guide clients out of them. So it depends on what you're going to be using it for. Does that help?
Okay. Yep.
Cool. So let's start right now. We're going to start getting a little bit of control with the R states, and just understanding that states primarily are comprised of your physiology. And if you're familiar with Tony Robbins, you'll know that he teaches physiology first because it's the easiest thing for him to teach in a room of 10,000 people. But your physiology interacts with your thinking, but thinking is composed of, mental imagery, so the pictures you make inside your mind, and it's composed of internal dialogue, the way in which you speak to yourself. So thoughts can only happen. Now, if it's a memory, so you can remember smells, you can remember feelings as well. But for the most part, we're going to be interacting with imagery and sound. So what I want everybody to do here is I want you guys to pick your favorite flavor of suffering, okay? And all of us are going to pick our favorite flavor of bullshit, frankly, right? And we're going to ruin it today. We're going to take it. I'm going to show you one technique you can use to change that neural pathway. Okay. So does everybody have, Janet, I can't see you, but I'm assuming that there is a feeling that you have occasionally that you do not like.
Yes.
Okay. And you got the feeling.
Yes.
Good. And let's see, does everybody else have a feeling?
Yes.
Good. Awesome. So what I want you to do now is I want you to remember the last time that you felt that feeling. And when you think about that and you start to remember the last time when that happened for you, I don't know where you were or what you were doing, but I want you to imagine that you can float back to that time and really float down into your body and see what you saw at the time. Hear what you heard. And as you do, just notice how the feelings begin to come back to you. Notice that just by remembering this memory, you start to get those feelings back. And let me know if you're starting to feel those negative feelings. Just nod your head. Good. And on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the intensity of those feelings, Navtesh? What is the intensity of the negative feeling?
Also 6 or a 7.
Good. And then how about for you, Ruben?
I'd say about a 5 or a 6.
Good. And Janet, what's on a scale of 1 to 10, how intense is it?
7.
Good. Okay. So now what I want you to do is this time when you go back to it, I want you to give that movie a soundtrack. Only I want you to mismatch the music to the feeling. So I want you to pick a soundtrack that's the opposite mood of whatever you were feeling. So if you were nervous or anxious, it could be the most calm, relaxing music. Or you could pick something that's like funny. You could pick circus music. So you'd be like, something like that. Or pick any song, a good one, could be Bad to the Bone. It was like, pick any song that mismatches the mood of that situation. Okay, so on the count of 3, we're going to go back to that moment. And as we do, we're going to begin to hear that music. And we're going to turn it up loud, and we're going to make it, imagine that it's coming from all around you. So it's loud, it's vivid, and it's rich. Okay, so on the count of 3, go back to that experience. 3, 2, 1. Be in that experience now. See what you saw, only this time, hear your soundtrack. So hear that music, turn the volume of that music up, and pay particular attention to the sounds of that music, the rhythm, the tempo, the melody, as you go through that entire experience, and play it all the way to the end of that experience while you listen to this new music. And when you've gotten to the end, just go ahead and let me know.
I'm there, but everything disappeared. So my feelings, I wasn't hearing.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I was playing the music in my head, and it takes away the thought that I had,
That's
that
right.
got me in that mood. So
Okay.
I wasn't at that 7 anymore. I was like probably about a 2 now.
Probably about a 2. Well, let's check it. So let's do something called a state break. So take a deep breath and then shake out your body, change your position. Just we're trying to break state essentially here. And now I want to just check back in with that experience. So go back to that experience and notice, how do you feel when you think about it now? Janet, since you mentioned.
I started. Okay, my thing is concentrating on the music I was listening to in my head. So
Yes.
my feeling is still not, that strong as it was before. So I'm still thinking about the music. I choose Bad to the Soul. So I'm just thinking about that.
Yeah. Good. So now play it again without the music and just notice if your feelings have changed. They may have or they may have not. So just play the experience again. How does that feel, Janet?
Strangely, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I'm still concentrating on the music. I still play through the scenes of whatever, but I'm still like more geared towards the music. I know I wasn't playing the music in my head, but
that's okay.
I'm thinking about it.
So what happens is the unconscious, when it learns, Virginia Satir said this. Virginia Satir is one of the people that NLP was modeled off of. And she says, when your unconscious learns a better choice, it will always choose the better choice. So oftentimes what will happen is, this is why NLP is so cool, is it can take really quickly. And you can have one trial learning and you can have one trial change. Doesn't always happen, but oftentimes it does. So what is, on a scale of 1 to 10, where's that bad feeling for you?
Right now?
Yeah.
It's probably about a 3, 4.
A 3 or 4. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to ask other people what their experience was. So Ruben, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and I'm hoping you will share.
Sure. Well, as far as the level of that feeling right now, I'd say it's like a 1 or a 2.
Great.
Very
And
low.
where was it originally?
I'd say a 5 or a 6 at least.
Awesome. Awesome. Very cool.
I played a song in my head. Actually, when I go to work, when I'm about 5 minutes away from my office, I start playing a song that gets me in and I play that same song in my head right now. And
perfect.
Yeah, it totally feels good.
Yes. And that's something you can do anytime. And whenever you find your mood dipping, you can just turn that music on. And you can turn the volume up.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Navtesh, how did it go for you?
As Janet said, it depends. Like I would still say 6 out of 7 when I go back to the same visual. But when I think just about the music, it's like, okay, I'm not thinking about the visual again. So it's it's neutral at that point. But the moment I go back to the thought a little bit, it's like the same state again.
Okay, so that's information for us then. And this is all about playing with and finding the tool or the intervention that's going to work for you. So we're going to go on and do a different exercise that might help you. And since you keyed in on the visual, the next intervention we do is going to be about working with pictures and images. And that you'll notice that one might be more powerful for you, okay? So let's go ahead and take, for those of you who diminished your feelings significantly, you may want to now pick a different suffering situation, something that was mildly irritating, or any situation where you felt a way in which you didn't want to. And I'm going to show you another way in which we can use the structure of thinking to change how we feel about a negative situation. So Navtesh, go ahead and use the same situation, because that's still at a 6 or 7. And then Janet, I can't see you, but I'm assuming that you're with us. And
I am with you. I'm with you. I know you can't see me, but I'm with you. I'm under the weather. I have this cold, so I'm
got
with
you.
you.
Okay, great. So as long as you have an experience that you want to diminish the negative feeling, then
Okay.
we're good to go. And
Okay.
Ruben, I assume you're good? Awesome. So what I want you to do now is I want you to go back to that negative experience and see what you saw at the time, hear what you heard. And notice on a scale of 1 to 10, how strong is that negative feeling? Now, step out of your body. So imagine that you can float out of your body and then look at yourself in that situation. So it's like you're seeing yourself in that experience. And notice how that changes the feeling. And begin to push it away from you. So begin to move that back. You can either imagine yourself moving away from that experience, or you can see yourself getting farther off into the distance. And you can even take that image of you and shrink it down to the size of a Polaroid picture. So you see yourself in that situation, the size of a Polaroid picture, and put a frame around it like it's like a picture frame. And just check in now and see how do you feel about that situation now. So Navtesh, I'm going to start with you, and you're unmuted. Where did you start, and then where are you now?
I started at 6 or 7, and when I stepped out and saw myself in that situation, it seemed like a joke, basically.
Yes.
A joke isn't like, it's like, man, why are you so serious? Like, it's like looking
Yes.
at me like, man, right here.
Yeah, it's awesome. And if you notice his physiology too, he's smiling about something that used to feel bad, right? So this is how we begin to test the work. We can start to see already he's thinking about an old problem state and he's generating a new physiology. So that's very powerful.
I mean, it's not the problem, but I see it, I'm like, I don't know why you're so, like, I see myself and I'm like, yeah, why are you so upset about it?
Yeah, totally. And it feels better, right?
Right.
Good. Awesome. And Ruben, you're up.
Well, yeah, I think I was around a 5 or a 6, and when I looked at it from a distance, it seemed pretty silly to even be concerned about it, and
Yep.
went all the way down to a 1 or maybe even less. It does seem very trivial, I guess.
Yes, totally. Awesome. Janet, your turn.
Yeah, I was like a 5, and when I removed myself and look at myself, and
Yep.
it was funny. Yeah.
It was funny, right? Changes
Yeah,
how you feel.
because it wasn't as serious as I thought,
Yes.
when I was there in it. Yeah.
Exactly. So just awesome work. So one of the things that happens when you develop a mindset practice like this, your unconscious will automatically begin to step out of experiences that you don't like and shrink them down. So pretty soon, if you develop the habit of practicing techniques that we're doing like this, your mind will start to do it automatically. And you'll start to amplify good feelings and diminish unhelpful feelings automatically without even having to bring conscious awareness to it. So is this stuff useful for you guys? Is this stuff helpful? I need feedback from you to know if I'm kind of moving in a direction that's useful for everybody.
I have a question though.
Sure.
So it does make sense that you were in a state and then, and then you find another way to look at the same thing and then you're kind of in a different state. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't necessarily mean you solved the problem. You just escaped out of it for a moment.
That's right. So are you talking about a specific problem?
Like let's say my particular state of suffering was anxiety over my future, like what I'm gonna do, like what steps do I need to take this week and in the long run. So even though I'm sitting there seeing myself solving the problem, like, okay, this is what I need to do, but
yes,
I escaped out of that state, I feel good, but the problem is still not solved, it's there. So
good. So that's a very good question. What I would do if we were in a coaching session, what I would do with you is I would do a values elicitation and find out what's most important to you. And then we would look at all of your options from there. And maybe we don't have that much time in this session to do values elicitations next week. What's the timeline of this for you?
What do you mean?
When do you have to make a decision?
Oh no, it's in general like long-term thing. There's no.
Oh,
It's just like
good.
the more you keep postponing it, the more it starts getting filled with anxiety. Like, okay, need a certain. Basically, it's like need a certain purpose, which keeps shifting back and forth each week, and
Sure.
then.
Well, let's try this then, okay? Why don't you stop and look at yourself in that situation, okay? So see yourself over there, and I really want you to picture yourself. So really imagine yourself in that situation and notice how you're breathing, notice the look on your face, everything that lets you understand that you're anxious about the future. And as you do that, I want to ask you, what is the positive intention of this anxiety? What is it doing for you?
It's trying to put me on the correct path.
Good, good, absolutely. So what feeling or emotion does it want for you to have?
One where I'm proud and happy.
Good. Yeah, totally. So I want you to plug in to that you that's anxious over there. I want you to change that image of yourself. So see yourself proud and happy. Okay. And go ahead and just allow yourself to see yourself that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then go ahead and step back into that image and feel yourself fulfilling yourself all the way up with that proud and happy feeling. And I want you just to practice considering your options from this place as
Gotcha.
opposed to the anxiety. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
If we feel good, if we think good, we feel good, we make better decisions. Cool?
Mm-hmm. Cool. Makes sense.
Awesome. Totally.
Thanks.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Let's see. So this is something that is optional for you, but it's a very, very powerful mindset principle called the 90-second rule. And the 90-second rule is that it's a commitment because every thought that you have, every internal dialogue that you have, it all cascades a feeling through your body. Okay. So everything from your posture to your thinking, these things produce chemical cocktails inside your body that any state that you have can only last approximately 90 seconds. So in order for you to maintain an anxious state, in order for you to maintain any negative mood, you have to re-trigger that mood. And the only way to re-trigger that mood is to keep thinking about your problem in the same way. So the 90-second rule is a commitment that you can make or not make, but it's basically, I'm only going to suffer for 90 seconds at a time. I'm going to give myself 90 seconds to feel this feeling, and then I'm going to change my focus. I'm going to change my internal dialogue. I'm going to listen to different music in my head. I'm going to change my physiology. I'm going to do something to shake myself up. I'm going to change the pictures in my mind, and I'm only going to indulge in these suffering states for 90 seconds because life is too short, basically. And when you feel better and you think better, you're more effective and you make better decisions. So that's for you if you want to indulge in it. Now, so diminishing bad feelings is one piece of this. The other piece of NLP is beginning to feel good. And the next thing I want us to do is really to remember a time when you had a lot of fun. So I want everybody here now to think of a time when you did something that was so much fun. You know the kind of thing that, I don't know, maybe you were a teenager and you were doing something so much, you had to kind of like lie about it. I don't have to know what it was, but I want to know a time in your life when you were doing something so fun that just thinking about it, you start to feel that exhilaration. So as you're starting to remember that feeling, give me a thumbs up or let me know. Janet, I'm going to unmute you so you can tell me when you have that memory. Good.
Okay.
Ruben's on board.
Okay. I
Good.
do.
Naltesh, you got one? Good. And so what I want you to do now is I want you to do the same thing, only I want you to see yourself in that situation. So see yourself in a small image. Maybe it's like you're looking at your iPhone or something. You can see yourself in that movie having fun. And just notice what happens if you were to double the size of the image. So make it bigger, make the image bigger, make it brighter, Blow it up to the size of a movie theater so that you can see that image of you having fun on a 40 by 40 screen. And then I want you to go ahead and step inside the image so that you can see what you saw at the time, hear what you heard. And as you get those feelings of fun back, just notice where they start in your body. And I want you to imagine taking a lever inside your mind and taking that lever and saying on the lever, fun, and turn the lever up and crank it up at the rate and speed that you begin to feel that exhilaration come back to you now. So only turn that lever up as fast or as slow as you can make those images more vivid, more intense. Go through the experience. If it helps to, you can close your eyes and just go back to that experience and play it again from the beginning. So see what you saw at the time. Start it over from the beginning. Turn the sounds up. And as those feelings of fun begin to come back to you, make the images brighter, bring them closer to you, make them brighter and brighter. And then notice where those feelings are in your body as you begin to pump that lever up. All right. So I'm going to unmute you guys and find out how it's going for you. Janet, I'll start with you. Hello. Hey guys, sorry about that.
Yep, better now.
Good. Okay. So Navtesh, how was that for you? Could you start to feel the fun coming back to you?
Yes.
Yes, good. On a scale of 1 to 10, what was the level of fun you were feeling?
It was 8.
8 out of 10.
Yep.
What's the difference between 8 out of 10 and 10 out of 10?
That's a hard question. I mean, I would not say 10 because that's a very strong one. So I don't. I would need to have a relative to say something's 10, but this was pretty up high, so I would say 8.
It was 8. Okay, what would have to happen in order for that feeling to go to a 9? What would you have to feel inside yourself in order to go to a 9 out of 10?
Like a lot of emotions, like the positive ones.
Yeah, there you go.
That I focused on mainly was based on adrenaline.
Got you.
I guess if there were other emotions coming along with it, I would say we'd go 9, 10.
Nice. Very cool. Awesome. So I'm going to put you on mute over here. Ruben, how was that for you?
Great. Definitely a 10, easily.
Easily.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. Janet, I for some reason can't unmute you. I think you might have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
There we are. Yep. Can hear
Okay.
you.
Mine was a 10.
Awesome.
Yes.
So this is the idea here. First, we start to learn to diminish negative feelings. We learn to increase positive feelings. And you decide what experiences you want more of in your life. And then you train your mind and body to go into those states at will. All right. So this is what we're talking about when we talk about state. We have about 10 minutes left. The next thing that I want to do is give you a brief introduction to beliefs. And we won't have time to play with belief, but I want to explain how they work. But before I do that, I just want to ask if there's any questions before I move forward.
Yeah.
No, I'm
We're
good.
Good? Yeah. Awesome. So a little bit of background for you guys. I'm going to put you back on my screen share here, wherever it is. Let's see here. Okay, so you should be able to see my slide. It says Hebb's Law. So Hebb's Law is a principle of neuroscience that says neurons that fire together wire together. Basically, what ends up happening is every thought that you have inside your mind travels down a specific neural pathway. Your neurons, as they fire, form a chain. So every thought forms a chain. Every feeling forms a chain inside your mind. And the more that pathway gets fired off, what ends up happening is there's a substance called myelin that coats the neurons and makes that pathway stronger. So the more you think a certain thought, the more you feel a certain emotion, the stronger that neural pathway gets. It's like if we were taking a road, and initially it's a grass road, the more we take that road, the more worn down it gets, and the easier it gets to traverse that road. And it's as if somebody comes in and paves it. And then pretty soon you have a highway to your most thoughts, your most common emotions. And the same thing is true if we stop using that road. What will begin to happen is that the forest begins to take the road back. The mind conserves energy. So whatever you stop thinking about, your brain will actually begin to demyelinate that pathway and sever the connections between those neurons. So the more we learn to stop thinking in ways that make us feel bad and learn to think in ways that make you feel good, the more you will do it automatically. The most important insight that you have to understand here is that because of Hebb's law, there is no difference between ruminating about your problems and programming your mind to repeat the problems. The more you travel the problem circuitry, the more you are increasing the probability of repeating that circuitry in the future. So your best bet, I don't know if you've ever been in an argument with your spouse or girlfriend or brother, sister, mother, father, do not argue with them. And don't just change their mood. Change their mood and talk about it from a different mood. And that's what you want to do with yourself. If you're not in a good state, change your emotional state. Stop. Think about something else. Change your neurology. Do some jumping jacks. Do anything that you can do to change your state. And when you focus on something different, remember the 90-second rule. Your emotions will pass. And when you do this and you make this a habit, you will naturally start to demyelinate those pathways and you'll take power out of your problem emotions. All right. So this is a Tony Robbins quote about state. The difference between peak performance and poor performance is the state that you're in. And that's one of the key skills of NLP. And the other one here is about beliefs. Beliefs turn on and off levels of awareness. They turn on and off skill and behavior, your access to skill and behavior, and they turn on and off states of beingness. Another thing to understand is beliefs are self-recursive and self-referring. So for example, if you have an idea about yourself, when you have an idea about yourself, you project an image into your mind, and that image influences how you feel. In the same way that when we looked at the image of ourselves, that changed how we felt. So ideas about ourselves affect our feelings and behaviors, and then our feelings and behaviors affect our ideas about ourselves that reinforce the belief. This creates self-fulfilling prophecies. And we have these self-fulfilling prophecies in every area of our life, from how much income we can make, to the level of happiness we can experience, to how people treat us, to how attractive we believe we are, to how much joy, ecstasy. We have beliefs about everything, and they affect our behavior. And then in turn, it becomes a self-fulfilling cycle. And the most pernicious thing about beliefs is that they filter out anything that contradicts them. So regardless of where you are on a political spectrum, the tendency is to filter out information that disagrees with your belief system. And that's not just political beliefs. That's beliefs that you have about you. If you've ever tried to pump somebody up, if you've ever tried to tell somebody who's down on themselves that they can do it, they'll find ways to tune you out because it just does not get past the filter of their belief system. And this is a really good thing because, like I mentioned earlier, there's so much information happening. The most important need a human being has is the ability to feel certain and familiar with who you are and how things are going to be tomorrow. So the ability to have beliefs is incredibly important, but mental freedom starts when you can change beliefs, learning to identify and change those beliefs. So I want to beg your permission to do some really, really silly experiments that just demonstrate the power of beliefs. And they're silly, but they do illustrate a point. So I'm going to ask that wherever you are right now, I'm going to ask that you reach your left hand up as high as you can. Awesome. Janet, I can't see you, but I'm assuming you're reaching. Oh, let me unmute Janet. Janet, are you reaching?
My hand
awesome.
is up.
Now I want everyone to reach higher. Good. And now reach higher than that. Right? Now, you guys can put your hands down. I could ask you to reach even higher. And if you were determined to find a way, you would stand up. And I could ask you to reach even higher. And if you were determined to find a way, you could stand on your chair. And I could ask you to reach even higher. And if you were determined to find a way, you'd find a way to do it. The point of that experiment is that your brain subconsciously decided what was the limit of how high you can reach. And then it sent your hand here. And then I asked you to reach it higher, and everybody went higher, right? So one more experiment just to illustrate this is, you know what, everybody's sitting down, but put your hand out in front of you like this. And then I want you just to turn as far back as you can and bring your arm as far back as you can while keeping your torso as straight as you can. Don't rotate your chair though. You're cheating. You know, let's do another one. Let's do another one since this one requires more mobility, okay? Why don't we do this? Here, take your hand out like that. Good. And then I want you to rotate it as far as you can rotate it. Good. Now bring it back. Shake it off. This time, close your eyes. And I want you to imagine that you can rotate it further. I want you to imagine that it's just made of like a loose gummy type thing, and you can just rotate 365 degrees all the way around and just see and believe it going around and around and around and around. Now, open your eyes. Good. And stick your hand out and then rotate it as far as you can. How many of you got further?
I did.
I think I did.
Yeah. So what happens is your mind projects an image, an expectation of how far you can go. And these things are largely subconscious, and they're happening all the time. It's happening all of the time. So having a mindset practice or getting a coach is really about asking what is the result you want, and then learning to influence these mental images so that you start to go further and further or reach higher and higher again and again and again. The most important beliefs you have are the ones about yourself, the beliefs that you have about who you are. And learning to identify and choose those beliefs is what, you know, NLP and my work is about. So I'll tell you, my favorite story from personal experience is I was taking my black belt test when I was very young. Actually, I took my black belt test young. I was 8 or 9. And I've been training for years to get this thing. And they had put my belt up against, on top of the wall. And it had my name stitched in gold, Peter Schwartz, up there. And I could, every day I'd come in and I'd train, and I'd see my black belt, my goal, my vision for what I wanted every single day. It was really powerful motivation. And I'm looking at this thing, and finally test day comes, and I go through and I do the whole test amazingly. I break all the boards, I do the sparring, I jump off the wall, I turn around, I do an amazing kick, and they blindfold me and they make a sound, and based on the sound, I have to kick target. I passed every single test except for the last test, which was a cinder block that I had to punch through in order to get my black belt. It was literally, you pass this test, the black belt's yours. Couldn't do it. 12 years old, we'd been practicing for years, and I could, every time I would punch the cinder block, my hand would start to hurt basically. So this time was no different. I measured and I measured and I measured, you know, like the way karate people do it. They go like 1, 2, and they make this big, wah! And then they try and break through the board or the brick in this case. So I did that, and man, I hit that brick, and that brick hit me back. I mean, I remember just how much that thing stung. And so being a good karate teacher, my karate teacher was like, do it again. So I did it again and again. And at this point, I'm punching a brick and it's hurting, basically. I just cannot break through this thing. And what he does is, because I'm a little kid at this point, he says, okay, what I'm going to do for you, I'm going to combine 2 of your previous tests. And if you can do those, then I will allow you to get your black belt. So he takes my black belt off the wall. And I mean, I've been working for this thing for so long, right? And I see him bring my goal closer to me and actually wraps it around my eyes. So he blindfolds me with it. And he's like, okay, so you got to just do the same punch, but now I want you to, it's just going to be a board. So I put my fist on the board. I feel the wood. And I'm like, dude, I've broken wood 1,000 times. This is no problem. Reach up, punch through. I break it, no problem. But then I hear the sound of a cinder block hitting the ground. And I pull the blindfold off, and he had just covered the cinder block with a wooden board. That's all he did. So he tricked me into believing that I could do it. And that's when we talk about beliefs turn on and off levels of skill. If you don't believe you can, your body will not give you the resources in order to do it. So that's my favorite example from my personal life. I've had others as well. I think all of us have had them as well. One thing that might be useful actually is to think about times in your life when you've had the experience of changing a belief. But I think I'm going to leave you guys with that. It's 7 o'clock. We've been on for an hour. I'm going to let you guys ask any questions. And then if you have any suggestions or things you want to do next week, now is the time to tell me. So Ruben, is there anything, questions? What did you get out of this? How can I make it a better experience for you? And what should we do next week?
You know, like I've told you before, this is all new to me, but this is making lots of sense. So, you know, no complaints as far as that goes. How to make it better for next week. I'm not sure. Like I said, I've learned a lot just in this past hour. So I got nothing
Awesome.
but good things to think about.
Good. Okay, great. Glad to hear it. If anything comes up, let me know. In the meantime, you can message me. Okay? And Navtesh, what about you, sir? How can I serve you?
Well, first of all, thanks for the session.
Of course.
Found it useful. I've read the book halfway through, and I really do like the book so far, especially the anchoring part. What I would like to do next week is like we did practical sessions like today, like more of those. So more of practice and theory, which you did perfectly today, like theory and practice combined.
Okay, awesome. Is there any particular outcome that we should be thinking about? Because there's a ton of techniques and they're all to do something in particular. Is there a particular outcome that you have? Is there something that you want?
I mean, just like Ruben, I'm new to this.
Okay.
But if something comes to my mind based on what I've read so far and what you introduced, is just change states at certain areas where I don't take action and start making excuses.
Okay.
Maybe that for now, but as I said, I'm a beginner in this.
Great. Awesome. I'll keep that in mind. Okay.
Perfect.
Janet, last but not least.
Well, thank you again for this. This was very informative, and I got a lot out of it. What I would like to learn, or maybe you can help me with, is fear. If you know, I have this phobia of driving the freeway, and and my job required me to drive, but I drive everywhere on the street. So that's one of the things
Sure.
I would love to conquer.
Yeah. You know, NLP actually got famous because they developed the fastest phobia intervention. So
Mm-hmm.
NLP is the only thing that has a 15-minute phobia intervention.
Okay.
And that's what put NLP on the map. Is
Mm-hmm.
that made Tony Robbins' career, that made Richard Bandler's career, and that's definitely something we can do. There's different ways we can do it. If you're more comfortable doing it in a private one-on-one session, then you and I should arrange a time outside of
Mm-hmm.
the group. If not, we can next week we can do 15 or 20 minutes on the phobia removal, if that's
Okay.
something you want.
Okay.
Is that which one would you
Well,
be more comfortable?
it doesn't matter to me. I'm not private. Everybody know I can't drive the freeway.
Okay, good.
So now they know.
They know. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you know what would help me, because a lot of this is about sensory acuity and me
Mhm.
being able to gauge your response.
Mhm.
Next week, if you're feeling up to it, I'd love to see you on video, and
Sure.
we'll all learn the phobia cure, and
Okay.
we'll workshop how to do that with each other.
Okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
Great. All right,
All right.
guys. So thank you so much. And then I
Thank
want to
you.
get everybody's permission. Is it okay if I put this online? So Ruben's good.
I'm
Navtesh,
good.
you're good? Okay,
Um,
great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
My pleasure. Have a great one.